I just want to add a quick disclaimer to this episode with Elizabeth. She is an Oriental medicine practitioner, but she is not necessarily giving you medical advice. These are just things that she's learned in her research. Always discuss with a doctor, of course. Anyway, Elizabeth. There. Thank you so much for listening to Grounded in Maine today. My name is Amy, and I brought back Elizabeth Bruckner from last year. Elizabeth Bruckner's business is called Create Wellness Project, and last year we talked about her book, The Homesteader Mindset, and she's showing it.
It's dancing through the screen.
And so last year we were talking about that. This year she wants to talk about kefir, and I'm not sure if you guys have heard of kefir. I've heard of it. I have not had it, except for we were talking about earlier water kefir. But I've seen most of it is like in the like milky consistency. So I'm thrilled to have you back, Elizabeth, and I'm so looking forward to hearing more about kefir because it's something that is that exciting to you is exciting to me.
Oh, I'm excited to be here, speaking of excitement, because we've been connected for quite some time, and you are one of the most gracious podcast hosts that I've ever met. I know she's blushing, ladies and gentlemen, but it's true. Off screen, you're very gracious.
Thank you. And I was telling you before we started recording, like you've posted other interviews that you've done, and so I've been following, and I've seen 4 or 5, and most recently you were on one of my friend Amanda's podcast, Mander's Mindset, and it was so wonderful, and I had so much FOMO. I'm like, we did not talk about that. I feel like I know you so much better just from listening to all, everyone has a different sort of topic to talk about, and you know so much about so much, and it's so fun to hear because just you can hear the curiosity and the excitement in your voice and the way that you talk about it, and I feel like I've learned a lot just by listening to you.
Oh, yay. Podcasting's great because you can geek out and then others can geek out with you. It's in this very soundbite world. It's so nice to sit down and have a conversation about things that are exciting.
That is true. That is true. And so I know that you got into kefir because it's sort of like a fermentation. It's in that that sort of world. And like I said, I haven't had it before. But so what drew you to kefir specifically?
Well, it was a part of my homesteading and also a part of my healing. So I had a chronic illness that I think we mentioned before had left me homebound. Let's start again. Bedridden for days or weeks, homebound for months, and then unable to work for years. So I was really, really sick for a long time. And I was able to get better just starting to do a few different things. One of them was rest, and another was getting my digestion back on track. And a few years in, I started volunteering as a chapter leader for the Weston A. Price Foundation. Have you ever heard of them?
I have not.
So they're just traditional nutritional food. There's a book called Nourishing Traditions by, I think it's Dr. Sally Fallon Morale. I think she's a doctor. If not, she's just an author. And she's this woman that took all of the traditional recipes that she could find from many different ethnicities and native groups and put them into a cookbook. And then in the margins of the book, she has the health benefits and research of real food. It's a fascinating book. So it's a recipe book, but in the margins, all of these facts and figures. My husband bought it when we were first newly married. A doctor told him, because I had fatigue for many, many years, he was like, she probably needs to get off sugar. This is the only book you need. And so he read it, and I was like, I don't cook. I'm an independent woman.
I don't need a cookbook if I don't cook.
Right. I was allergic to the kitchen for a very long time, and it was the downfall of my health because I was eating a lot of organic foods with really happy cows on the packages, but I was eating out of boxes and bags, and most of them had seed oils, and it got me really sick. I mean, really sick. About 4 or 5 years into the healing process, I was doing really well, but I was still struggling with some just stubborn symptoms that weren't going away. The fatigue was much better, but it still was only about 50%, 60%. And then I went to one of the group chapter meetings that I was co-leading, and the woman that came in was a molecular biologist, and she talked about how she healed her son of developmental disorders. So he had some autistic symptoms, and he also had really bad coordination, like he was falling all the time. He had a lot of learning deficiencies. Wow. And so she's talking about this, and she goes, I healed him with the GAPS protocol, which is gut and physiology or gut and psychology syndrome. And I promise I'm getting to Kefir. This was done by a woman named Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride. She is a neuroscientist. I think she was a neurologist, and then she eventually got a second degree in nutrition when her son was diagnosed with autism. And she cured her kid of all the symptoms within a few years through food. And she's kind of run under the radar. She doesn't, she's not super commercial, but she's got this movement because a bunch of moms were like, I want to also cure my kids of these. A lot of times autism comes with extreme digestive issues, lots of constipation, and then they'll have kind of a meltdown, and then they will finally have a bowel movement, and they'll be symptom reduced for a few days, and then the toxins build back up. And so so many patients were coming to her for this. And so she wrote a book about it, like how to do it. It's a very difficult protocol, but I was sick enough that I wanted to get well that I started doing it. I'm at the end of the second year now. It's about a 2-year protocol to heal your gut. And in it, kefir plays a big role. Fermentation plays a big role. So when we talked before, I was in the middle of it, but I wasn't talking about it a lot. And I had already become a fermentation maven because it just excited me that we could have more vitamins and more good nutrients. They were more bioavailable. And then I learned about kefir, and it blew my mind what kefir will do. So then I put on my little scientist hat, right? And I took my Master's of Science in Acupuncture and Herbology. It's actually called Master's of Science in Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine, which isn't very PC, but that's what my degree is called. And it's all about herbal medicine and how the body heals itself. And I took that mindset and looked at kefir. And looked at how is it healing us from a traditional Chinese medicine perspective and also just from a gut health perspective. Why did it get rid of all my symptoms? I was going to send you a photo of me. So I have a photo with this big, gigantic brown mark on my nose. I'll send it after, just so you can see it. And this was a big, gigantic, not a birthmark. It was a mole, a sunspot that was coming, but it was really dark. It was dark like a dark beauty mark, like Marilyn Monroe's, that dark, except it was giant. It was probably about a dime size.
And it was raised, so it wasn't like a beauty mark? It
was not raised, but it just appeared. So it appeared in my 40s because on the left side, I was getting more sun from the car, right? And so I wasn't using sunscreen. I don't use sunscreen now, believe it or not. But at the time, I was wearing a lot of hats and I dressed like a nun. I would be completely covered from head to toe, usually in white because it's really hot here. And
you don't wear sunscreen in California?
I do not wear sunscreen in California.
What do you do instead of sunscreen?
Well, So
to get completely off topic.
Yeah, well, it's an exciting piece of the puzzle, right? So once I cleaned up my gut health, my body was able to process sunlight better. So, for example, when I was a vegetarian for about 27 years, from 16 till 27 years after that, and because I'm not going to do the math on because that you said earlier. You said, "What do you not do?" I don't do math on podcasts. So 16 plus 27.
Don't ask me to do anything. Yeah.
Everybody do it.
Same.
Or maybe I'm 52, so if that's more, I don't think it is. I think it was like 43. But I would burn in Southern California sun within 5 minutes. If I was out and my skin was showing, I would burn. And I have like a very bluish tint. I'm very, very pale. I've got Belarusian descent and Irish descent. It's like the palest of the palest people. And I just assumed that I could never go out in the sun. And then I started eating meat during my recovery, and I found some ethically raised meat. And when I started noticing that accidentally I would be out for 10 minutes and I wouldn't burn. And I was like, what is going on? And I started to tan. I used to go from red to white, and that's all I did.
That was me. My sister and I call ourselves, our middle name is Burn and Peel.
And the peeling is kind of fun. Like there's some crazy, it's like Elmer's, when you're kids and you used to spread Elmer's glue and you could pull it off. That was me too, burn and peel.
That's what we did as kids.
Right?
As now 52 years old. That's what we did as kids.
Just peeling it off each other, and my dad too. And so it wasn't necessarily just that I was eating meat, but that showed me that my body could take more sun than I thought I was capable of, simply because I went back and Googled. There are B vitamins that help you process the sun better. And so we've got all these vegetarians that are super, super pale, and they just don't have what it takes. They don't have the energy. Maybe it's in the mitochondria, I'm not sure, and you end up burning. So then I went from there to cleaning up my gut health, and Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride talks about how important vitamin D is. And she recommends, 15 to 30 minutes a day of sunbathing, which sounds completely like, what? We're all going to die. Yeah. But when your gut microbiome is healthy, you don't burn. So I can sit outside in the Southern California sun for over 60 minutes a day. I don't typically, it's very hot, but I can, and not burn. I will tan now, and I never did before. And I don't have the big black thing. The big black thing that was on my nose, I'm pointing to my nose, that sunspot, that went away when I started healing my gut. And I would put a little kefir on it, but it was really the kefir that I was using in my body that stopped the growth of it and made it disappear. Like I don't have cover up on right now. Yeah. And you can see it's not here. So, and I talk about that in the course because I think people need to know that a lot of times we're so worried about the sunspot. I wasn't. I used to think like, if I have a big spot on my nose, I'm just going to name it spot and move on. Like I'm not, and I had gone to a dermatologist to make sure that it wasn't anything scary. It wasn't. But I would constantly have people be like, "Oh, you have like some dirt on your," like, no, that would be a sunspot. So the fact that it was able to reverse itself, that's just one of the many symptoms that reversed.
That's wild.
That's wild. Now if I go out for a walk and I'm going to be out for an hour and a half, I will wear a hat. And I might bring a long sleeve cotton shirt if I feel like if my skin feels warm, but typically I can go out for an hour and not burn. I know, it's remarkable.
That's so cool.
And I'm getting
no
vitamin
idea.
D. Yeah, vitamin D is pretty remarkable. So one of the things, like again, the nerd in me, I would read about vitamin D and what it does.
That's why you're here.
That's why I'm here, because I'm super nerdy. I would read about vitamin D, and then I would go outside, and my husband and I would be sunbathing, and I would tell him what vitamin D does. And so one of the things that I remember is vitamin D actually helps you metabolize your cholesterol. So everybody says cholesterol is bad. I'm in the camp that says cholesterol is not so bad, and we do need it. We especially need it for our brain. We need it to help us stay calm. A lot of people on high cholesterol meds will get dementia in long-term studies, and they also die of more violent deaths because they have more anxiety, anger. Fat calms you down. And without fat, you start to become a little bit more skittish, and there's a lot more fear that comes through. So yeah, when you start learning that fat's not this bad thing, you start noticing that your body actually feels great when you have it. Like I have a lot of fats in my diet now, and I feel the healthiest that I've ever had. So all this to say, vitamin D is your friend, but you need to do it in a way. Like I started with 5 minutes a day, and I started to see how my body responded. And as long as I'm not burning, I'm actually doing that. So the history of kefir with me was through Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride, because she's like, we need to heal your gut. And one of the best ways to heal your gut is to have kefir, not commercially made kefir. And I'll tell you the difference when you're ready for it, unless you have another question. But homemade kefir that's been fermented 48 hours, like the one that's behind me, that's going to be fermented for 48 hours.
Okay. I don't have a question. I'm like on the edge of my seat waiting to hear about what comes next.
Okay. So why do we do homemade kefir and not commercially created kefir? Well, it all boils down to money and time. So a lot of times when we get health food stuff that's from a big, gigantic corporation, they cut corners because that's how they make money. I mean, I get it. They've got CEOs to pay and environmental bribes to fish out, whatever they're doing. So what homemade does is it actually uses the grains. A lot of times when you go to the grocery store and get commercially made kefir, it's only been fermented for 4 to 12 hours. And they're not using grains because it's just easier to use a batch of kefir to make another kefir, and that's just going to water it down. It's not going to actually give you a real kefir. Whereas in my kefir here, it's been fermented for 48 hours, and so it does a lot of things that are going to help you. And there's a lot more microbes, helpful microbes that are going to do stuff. There are yeast in here. So kefir versus yogurt, which I think we'll get into a second, is amazing. Kefir beats every time. Now, I do want to say about pronunciation, it's really kefir. But if I said kefir, I would start mixing it with kefir, and then I'm going to make this weird amalgam of a word that's not what we know. So for American purposes, we're going to say kefir. So what happens with a 48-hour ferment, like why can we have that? Why can people that are lactose intolerant have it? Is because after 48 hours, it's eaten most of the lactose. And not only that, it's broken down a protein called casein. So a lot of people think they're lactose intolerant, but they're really casein intolerant. They're having trouble digesting the protein casein. And after 48 hours, the microbes have eaten that. Okay, so that's why we like commercial versus homemade. Do you want to hear about why we like yogurt versus kefir, or do you have a question about that?
Do we like yogurt more than kefir?
We like kefir more than yogurt.
Okay.
For sure.
I had a feeling that was the answer. Yes, please.
Okay, so from a lazy homesteader perspective, which is me, kefir is easier to make. Yogurt, you have to have at a certain temperature, and some people put it on heating mats, and I just was like, no, because I am the queen of 3 steps. And so kefir is, you take the grains, you put some milk on it, you put it on your kitchen table, or you put it somewhere where there's shade, and you leave it there. This is actually where my kefir is, in my living room. I have the kefir here.
And so room temperature, even if it's 85 outside?
Mm-hmm. It'll just ferment faster. So like what you're looking for when you're doing kefir is you might start seeing the whey and the curds separate, which means it's like a watery quality. You'll see, like some people don't know what whey looks like. I didn't. It's almost see-through. It's almost transparent. And then there's curds. That's when you know you definitely need to give them more food. But all you do is you take those kefir grains, you rinse them in milk or filtered water. I do filtered water, although it's not as good for the kefir grains because it kind of messes with their biofilm. It is cheaper because you don't want to give up a lot of milk because the milk is expensive. So that's what I do. And then you put it back in another jar, put some milk on it, and let it sit. And that's it. It's like 3 steps. That doesn't sound like
kefir grains and milk, basically.
Kefir grains and milk. The less pasteurized, the better. In some cases, like my niece wants to do it, and I'm always like, raw is best for sure. And you can learn more about raw at Weston A. Price Foundation. They have a lot of research based on raw milk and all of the myths around it, that it's more dangerous than pasteurized, which is not true. But if you can't get it, like where my niece lives, it's illegal to have raw milk to sell it. Then I would get the least pasteurized, like low pasteurized. The most important is not to use the ultra pasteurized. There's a particular milk that's called ultra pasteurized, and it actually can be kept at room temperature. Like in France, they keep it at, I know, Amy's making a face for those of you that can't see.
It tastes so different when it's warm.
It tastes so different when it's warm, and it shouldn't be sitting, like what milk can you just have sit out warm? So hot, ultra pasteurized really doesn't have any microbes. They've boiled it down so much that there's nothing living in it. And so you can't feed the grains because there's nothing for them to eat. So just do as low pasteurized as you can. Now I will say, a side note is raw milk actually does not rot. It sours. So there's something called clabber. A lot of farmers in the 1800s and the 1900s, before there was refrigeration, they would just, once their milk was starting to get tired, they would leave it out and they would let it clabber. And clabber just means it would sour. And then they would use that, like milk that had been out for 2 weeks, they use that to make something like, buttermilk biscuits or something. Yeah, sour cream. So it's, you can do a lot with raw milk. With kefir, why is it better than yogurt? Is because yogurt has, and the course that I have really delves into this. It's, hours of explaining the things that I'm telling you, just kind of little bits and pieces, because I think it's something that's so important and it can heal so much that if this is all you get, you have enough to learn to go kefir. You can just like go online on YouTube and say how to make kefir milk. And Bumblebee Apothecary is one of my favorite YouTube channels. Bumblebee Apothecary. She has a kefir guide. It's like 8 minutes and it's worth it. But if you want to delve deeper and you want to understand how you can heal your body and also how you can create habits to make this a normal everyday life, then I recommend my course. So why is kefir more important than yogurt? Yogurt just has it has a lot, but it has just a few different types of bacteria strains. Kefir has probably 20 times the bacteria, and I'm talking like from memory, so I could be wrong, but it's a lot more bacteria strains, but it also has yeasts. And the yeasts are really what's powerful here. Have you ever heard of Candida overgrowth?
No.
Okay.
Can I just stick a question in?
Yes.
Actually, I have two questions. Do you put like a lid when you're putting it at room temperature, or do you because I know that oh, that's a big jar. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so like cheesecloth or something.
Yeah. So
what that lets yeast in.
That's right. It lets everything in except for bugs. So what I'm showing now, if you're watching on the audio version, is I've got a half-gallon mason jar, and it's wide-mouthed. So it's like really wide-mouthed so that I can stick my hand in, because when it's cream kefir, you kind of have to fish out the grains. And then I just put a cheesecloth over with a rubber band. And you've got
gosh, I just had the, like, how do you, it's almost like solid. So how do you get those grains out? You said you have to rinse them, but. Yeah,
you have to pull them out by your hand if it's cream. If it's cream, you have to pull it out by your hand. And if it's milk, you just do it through like a plastic strainer, because kefir grains don't like metal and they don't like chlorine or anything that might be in your tap water. That's why you have to use filtered water. But every now and then I'll cheat and use a metal strainer, because it's only seconds and my kefir grains are okay. But you should use plastic or wood. So when I eat it, I'm using wood spoon. So to explain it, it's just a mason jar. You put the milk or cream in, you throw in your grains, you cover it with a cheesecloth, which is just a thin cotton towel, for those of you that don't know what cheesecloth means. And then you put a rubber band on it and you let it sit somewhere at room temperature for 48 hours. And in 48 hours, you'll see that it's started. It actually won't be as thick as you think, but once you take the grains out and put it in the fridge, then it's like a very thick sour cream. That's if you use cream. And we'll talk about the difference between cream and milk, because that's a difference. Yeah, milk it's more of like a very watery yogurt is what it feels like.
Okay. I mean, it was just, I asked that question because I know that I'm trying to remember what it was, but like some things the yeast will come out, it comes out of the air. Like there's yeast in your air, which just blew my mind for sure. And so this is, if you're doing milk, it's like animal milk, not necessarily, like you can't do that it's not the same with like oat milk or soy milk or coconut milk, or is it?
Yeah, you might need different grains. You can do it with soy milk, almond milk. You can do it with almost any liquid. I don't recommend it because if you're going for the healing aspects, the dairy is very important. There are particular strands that happen in the dairy that don't happen in the coconut milk and the soy milk and the almond milk. And if you've got a problem with your gut, almond milk and soy milk are not the best for gut health. Anytime you look at things that are highly refined, that kind of Weston A. Price would call primitive, traditional cultures, the folks that weren't eating white flour and processed food, if they weren't making it, we shouldn't make it. So an example is tofu, right? Tofu is used in very tiny quantities in Japan and other Asian cultures. And then we went and made like burgers and turkeys to furkeys. And like we took tofu and ate it at a level that created pathologies.
Well, and we add tofu to so many Asian dishes.
Yes, and we do it in like gigantic amounts, like we Americanize it. And what happens is, there was a a joke going around calling people soy boys, because boys that were being fed a lot of tofu younger were becoming more effeminate because there's certain hormones in it that were messing with boy hormones. I mean, it's just madness. So it's not so much, it's kind of common sense. All you need to do is, were they doing this before? Do you need some big, gigantic machine or factory to make this food that you think is so healthy? Chances are that's not the healthiest thing to do. And lots of people are going to say, but my kid is allergic to milk and my kid is, yes, that's usually a gut health issue. It's not necessarily the milk itself. It's the body's inability to ingest that milk. Why? Why is it not digesting that milk? And how can we fix the root cause, not the symptom? The symptom is my kid's allergic to eggs, so I'm going to get fake eggs, and that's going to fix the problem. It might fix that allergic reaction, but it doesn't fix the root of the problem, which is often centered in the gut.
Interesting. I mean, I've heard I hear so many things about like animal dairy, and that, you know, we were only meant to have it as, you know, as a small child, and that we're not really supposed to digest that, and, you know, stuff like that. And then, you know, and thinking about the people who are allergic. And so I was like, so, you know, so does the kefir, I think that the reason why people don't say it like that is because it's hard if you're not of that ethnicity. And because I fail at that. But that was why I was thinking like almond milk, coconut milk, soy milk, that type of thing probably wouldn't work. But I didn't realize that it was actually possible to do it.
Yeah.
It has enough to be beneficial, but not the best option.
It's not the most medicinal. It's not the most beneficial type of kefir. And so I'm not against it, but I think what I'd like for parents and people that are lactose intolerant is to not get stuck on identity. And a lot of times we have that. I am allergic to milk. I will die if I have milk. Yeah. And there are some gluten intolerances that celiacs, you could die from that. But that doesn't mean you can't heal it. So it's not your identity forever. Your body is not a stagnant, it's not a stagnant being. It's always evolving. And a lot of times what happens with gut health is we think that we are the allergy, and we're not. And Western medicine, conventional medicine, the medicine that most people go to with the white lab coats and all that, will say, oh, you're allergic to eggs, and so you should never have eggs, and here's a pill in case you accidentally have eggs. And I get that. Like, I don't want anyone to have anaphylactic shock. I don't want anyone to die. And there's some very dangerous allergies. But I will say that it is possible to heal them. Your body knows how to heal. You just need to help it. And so when we look at any type of story, for example, only children are supposed to have milk because only infant animals have milk, then I want you to look at cultures that do not have processed food. A lot of times they have milk on a regular basis, and it's adults and pregnant women especially, and they have a lot of organ meats, which is a scary thing for people to talk about, but you can make some delicious organ meats. Like, I recovered vegetarian, and I make my own liver pate, and I know. And let me tell you, when I was first doing it, I was making some stink face, but if you put enough butter, onions, and rosemary in it, it's actually quite good. I know.
Good for you.
Well, my husband will even say, like, I'm so proud of you, because even he doesn't have a lot of liver. And my answer is always, I was just sick enough that I had to make a change. And so in terms of dairy allergies, I don't say go out and just start having dairy. I suggest that you look for a nutritionist that can help you recover your gut health. So let's talk a little bit about what gut health means, because everybody's right? Like, oh, gut health, what does that mean? Does my gut do sit-ups? Like, is it really strong? What it is it's a membrane, right? So I'm clasping my fingers together right now, and I'm showing no signs of, no gaps. That's a healthy gut, right? It's nothing gets through. But when it's an unhealthy gut, now I'm spreading my hands and I'm showing that there are holes in between the cells. What's going to get in between those cells? Well, if an egg particle that's undigested gets through that cell, it's going to become toxic. Because our digestive system is one big tube, and that tube does not let things get into our bloodstream. And then there's something called the blood-brain barrier, and that is an even bigger, a bigger boundary, and that doesn't let anything go from our bloodstream into our brain without first being vetted. And so there are some pharmaceuticals that surpass the blood-brain barrier. Garlic does, which is why it's so good for anti-parasites of the brain. But if your gut health is got all these holes, that's why they call it leaky gut. You're leaking stuff that shouldn't be in there. It's kind of like, so a car gets an oil change, right? And the oil is from petroleum, and petroleum's from like a piece of coal, right? If you just took a chunk of coal and threw it in your oil filter, your car would not run, right? Because your car would be like, what are you doing? That is the same when you're giving someone eggs and they have a leaky gut and they cannot tolerate it. You are poisoning yourself with good food. And that can be carrots, that can be gluten, that can be anything. And so you can heal it, and kefir is one of the ways to heal it with the help of a practitioner.
Okay. Wow. So, okay. What makes it the best way to heal your gut? Like, what is it about? What's so magical? And what the heck are the grains?
Yeah. Oh, the grains are really cool. Okay, so I love talking about kefir. This is why I do podcasts, because
we did not rehearse this.
We did not.
This is me just feeding her things.
It's both of us geeking out together. We're like, yes. But at a cocktail party, people don't really want to hear about kefir. They're not as excited as you, so this is great. But I have had one friend, like I talked about my gut healing journey in a way that my girlfriends in Southern California could understand, and they were talking about hair growth, like grandma hair, where you get hair chins, and I said, once I started healing my gut, those weird hairs went away. I used to have like a black hair on my belly, and I'm very fair. I shouldn't have black hairs on my belly. And my legs were super hairy. Well, what happened was I had a lot of hormone imbalances because of my gut health. And so once I started to heal that, my hot flashes went away. My fatigue improved. I'm still healing, so that it's not like I'm perfect specimen of a human, but so much better. And more importantly, like all the things that are hormonal based for perimenopause and postmenopausal women, they started going away naturally. And my one friend's like, just tell me one thing you can do. I only want one thing, because she knows what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's too much.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, going through the whole menopause thing, they're like, you have to take this and this and this and this and this and this, and it's like $400, and it takes 4 hours every day. And you're like, cannot do that. It's a full-time job.
That's exactly right. And so what I learned is I wanted to break it down, because I was having a problem with patient compliance. And so I wanted to break it down to one simple thing that you can pick one thing and go from there. And that's what my book talks about, right? Pick a corner, something that interests you, and then just take that and learn about that one thing. And so my first course is the kefir course, because if I was going to say there was one thing you need to do, it would be kefir to heal your gut. The second thing would be meat stock, not meat, not bone broth, meat stock. And again, you can go to bumbleapothecary.com. I know I'm like throwing her a lot, but she's amazing, and it's very, very simple, and she will walk you through meat stock. But that will be my next online course. And then the next course after that will be just vegetable fermentation. So why is kefir the magic key? Well, it does a number of things. Once you can tolerate the dairy, which a lot of people, if you don't have anaphylactic, you may be able to do it. And what I recommend, and Dr. Natasha Campbell, I would recommend getting her book first and foremost. It's very science heavy, and there's a lot of footnotes and stuff, so it's not a fun read for someone that's not as geeky as us. But for the geeks out there, you will love it. And for those that are really sick, you'll want to learn it. So I would recommend getting the book, Gut and Physiology Syndrome. And then the second thing that I would do is, if you are able to tolerate kefir, that would be the first thing that I say that you try. One of the reasons is because the fat from kefir is going to coat your leaky gut. So we talked about that porous. It's actually going to fill in some of those gaps, and it's going to help the stuff not leak. It's kind of like putting silicone. It's like caulking your gut, basically. You're going to caulk your gut.
I was going to say like epoxy, but I don't think that was the right word. But I got, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Filling it in.
Paper mache, whatever. Insulation, yeah. And so that's one of the first things it does. And the second thing it does is it is a soldier for you. So it has yeasts that will eat Candida overgrowth. Candida overgrowth, for some of you, you've probably been diagnosed with it. It causes so many crazy things. And it's this Candida is a particular yeast. When it's overgrown, it can kill you. It can cause cancer. Like there's studies that show that it's related to cancer. It can cause a lot of autoimmune diseases. It can make your thyroid kind of crazy when it's overgrowth. That's why it's called overgrowth. The yeast in kefir will eat Candida for lunch. So it will bring it back to a normal balance. And that's why I'm not as hairy as I used to be. Like that's the bottom line. So when my friend says, in a good, yeah, yeah.
Not like hair loss, but like
right, like balance. hair in all the right places. I was losing hair for a while, and I'm not anymore. I'm growing my hair. My hair's growing back because of my gut health, and then in the areas where it wasn't supposed to grow, it's no longer growing as much. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so the kefir grains are magical, and they fill in those gaps, and I can't wait to do this course and just see, like, I want to see these results for myself. I'm so curious, like, how that works, and like, what was it that you saw first? Like, what was the benefit that you were like, whoa, she wasn't kidding?
Yeah. So I was doing a number of things. I was doing the meat stock, the fermentation, and I was doing the whole GAPS protocol, but kefir was one of the first things that I did. And I do want to say that in terms of dosage, I would always start out small. If you have any type of allergic reaction, you just a quarter of a teaspoon, maybe a teaspoon. Do that for 3 days. See how it feels. Increase by another teaspoon. See it for 3 days. And then once you hit a symptom, let's say you get a headache from it, then you stop at that particular dosage. Let's say you're up to 2 teaspoons a day, and you just stay there until the headaches go away. You can take care of them in other ways, but stay there until the symptom's gone, and then you can increase. If you're really, really sick, or your child's really, really sick, you need to be with a nutritionist or a doctor that's going to help you do this. And she has practitioners all over the place. I'm not one, but you can absolutely check with them. Yep. And sometimes they'll recommend putting sometimes they'll recommend putting a toothpick in to the kefir, and just that's all you have is a dip of the toothpick. So when I'm talking to my patients and they want to start and they're having difficulties, I'll just say that dip it in a toothpick. Gosh, I'm so sorry. You asked a question. I got excited. I wanted to talk about the dosage.
Oh, what was the first benefit that you noticed?
Thank you. The very first benefit was within a few days. And it was really surprising to me. My anxiety disappeared. So I have a history of depression, so I don't get anxious all that much. But as I was getting healthier, my anxiety level was starting to increase, and it was kind of like a low-grade anxiety. Also, satiation levels. Like, I thought I was always hyperglycemic, where if I didn't eat right when I needed to eat, I would feel faint or nauseous or angry, hangry. And so my husband, the little foodie that he is, we would go to restaurants, like we'd go to a strip, and I'd be ready to eat, and he'd be like, well, let's just look at the menu. And I'm like, you need to make a decision.
Put something in that mouth right now.
Right. And that disappeared completely. Like, I'm hungry, but I don't really need it at this moment because all the satiation level. And then the feeling of well-being and peace was so profound. A few days in, I remember saying to my husband, like, is this how you feel? Like, with a healthy gut? Like, what is this? I had never felt that way because I'd been on antibiotics as a child, and my gut microbiome was gone from just seasonal antibiotics. So that was the very first thing. The second thing was pain decreased tremendously. I did use castor oil as well, but I had chronic back pain that went away with the gut healing protocol. And how is that connected, right?
For real.
Well, right. Well, if you have a part of your body that's damaged or injured, it's going to have inflammation, and it's going to have pain receptors that are kind of heightened. If you've cleaned up the gut microbiome and your gut is no longer allowing toxins in, those toxins are not going to be creating more inflammation in the injured areas. So I've reduced the toxicity in my body, and that reduced the inflammation and the pain. And now my body is much more able to thrive without constant chronic pain.
Amazing.
Yeah.
My goodness. I mean, it sounds sort of like the kefir sort of like strengthens the muscles in the gut, like so that they don't loosen to let things through. Or, but you're saying it's a filling, like
Yeah, no, it does matter.
But well, I mean, it doesn't change that it's helpful, right? Like whatever
but
it's doing.
This is a good question because peristalsis is the muscle in your intestine. Peristalsis is the muscle that that's the action that happens when you move. So if you have good muscles, then when you have food and it digests, the peristalsis moves that stool throughout the intestine and eventually comes out of the rectum. So a lot of times people with constipation, their peristalsis is a little sluggish. With GLP, they're slowing down the peristalsis. With the like Ozempic stuff, they're slowing down that peristalsis so the intestines aren't moving stuff as quickly, and that gives you a feeling of fullness. That's one of the problems with it, paralysis.
Something's full.
Right. Yeah, something's full, and you can get a lot of necrotic tissue that way. You're not supposed to have stool in your body. Thanks. So in some cases, that muscle's not working. And then with people that have like frequent loose stools, their peristalsis is kind of hyperactive. What the kefir is doing is it's coating, it's more cellular than just muscle. It's coating the cell wall. And so once you stop getting all of the toxins into the bloodstream, then the muscles are able to repair themselves. Because your body is just looking at like, what is the most important problem? What is the biggest fire we have to put out right now?
Right.
Oh, it's, for example, someone's got brain fog so bad they can't cross the street, which I had when I was ill. Yeah, right. When your brain fog is so difficult, your body's going to go, that's the most important thing we have to fix. Or if your heart is having trouble, your body's going to go to that and it's going to forget about. That's why people with diabetes, like there's necrosis because the body is trying to heal those organs that the diabetes are eating through your heart, your kidneys, your liver. It's toxifying your organs. And so the body's like, I need all the energy there. And then you're getting nephrosis and like sores because there's no blood going down to your feet. That's why a lot of diabetics have problems with their feet.
Interesting.
And so this is starting at the cellular level. And then what happens is as your gut microbiome and that gut lining is more cohesive, then your body starts going, okay, there's no fire anymore. We don't have toxins that we have to get. Every time she eats, we don't have to get rid of those toxins. That orange is not going to cause, hypervigilance or some sort of inflammation. Now we can start giving a little more energy to the mitochondria. And the mitochondria is the powerhouse, is the energy. It's what gives us energy. And now the body can start doing that. Once we've got mitochondria, then we can start healing. Once we start healing, then we can start actually fixing those injuries. That's why when I say the body is able to heal itself, I actually mean the body is able to heal itself. Like you give it a little bit of fuel, you put the right fuel in, and then the body starts deciding what's going to come first. I didn't go, okay, now I'm going to work on my digestion. Now I'm going to work on my chronic pain. Now I'm going to work on my migraines. I just started noticing that as I got healthier, my body decided what was the next right action.
Oh, that's really cool. Because there's so, when you go to a doctor or whatever, they're like, so what is your biggest complaint? Like, what's your big symptom? And it's not for the mind to decide. It's for, the body needs to say, no, this is first and foremost. That's really interesting. Like, it's like, it's like your body has a brain.
It is like your body has a brain if you trust it. And you have to trust it by not giving it poisons, right? So I was I've been sugar-free for years and years and years. And then every now and then I would have like something with Splenda in it. And I'm like, I won't tell anyone, it'll be fine. But that's like a neurotoxin. That is a poison for your nerves. That's what neurotoxin means. And I would have it because I had a sweet taste. And now I have other things like I bake with honey. So I made a kefir cake, which you might do because you're a baker. And it was so easy and it was so good. And it had...
A kefir cake?
Yeah. I took hazelnut butter, just a scoop of hazelnut butter, some kefir that I had made into farmer's cheese. Like I strained it, made it into farmer's cheese because I used the whey for detox and other things, like using it for my body. And then I just took a chunk of the kefir cheese, threw it in a mixing bowl, put in 2 or 3 whole eggs, and some vanilla and some honey to taste. And then I put it in the oven for 350 for 25 minutes. And it was like this delicious kind of pound cakey, and it's delicious and it's real food. It's a protein bar. Yeah. This is from
So cool.
This is how we blow Amy's mind. Just come on with a baking thing. She's like a no joke baker, and I'm not a baker. I'm not a baker. This is like the one thing I was like, let me see what happens. And it was delicious.
It also sounds so easy. I mean, it literally sounds so easy because I mean the kefir is literally the grains and milk. You just let it sit for there's like zero work. You don't have to stir it.
Nope.
You just let it sit and then you strain it.
Yep.
Or pull the grains out.
Pull the grains out. Maybe wash them if they've been in cream because the biofilm was a little thick. Now, you asked about what these magical grains are and where they came from.
Yeah.
It's such a cool story. Prepare to have your geeky mind blown. Here we go. So the kefir grains, they don't really know where they came from. They know that they originated in the Caucasus Mountains, and they were usually, they believe that it started with shepherds that would have a leather pouch with some milk in it. And as they rode on their camel, the milk would be churned and the kefir grains created. But we don't know, there's no written or even like oral story of like the first kefir grain. You cannot make them. You can't create them out of thin air. You have to be given them from someone else. Kefir in the Caucasus was made all the time. It was this magical healing food. And the tribes were like, we're not going to share this with anyone outside of our tribes because it's our magical food. And the Russians were like, well.
Wow. Gatekeeping, man.
They were totally gatekeeping the kefir. I don't know what year this was, but.
Nobody else gets to be healthy.
Nobody else gets our magical healing stuff. So a spy from Russia named Irina, who is now considered a national hero, she went into the Caucasus Mountains and she befriended them and she stole some of the grains and brought them to Russia.
Gosh.
And that is how.
How confusing is that? Stealing makes you a hero.
It's like, what's happening? That is how.
Feels so familiar.
So that is how we have kefir grains in the Western world now because of Irina. Irina, the kefir national hero.
Relief.
And so they've tried to recreate them. You cannot. So the kefir grains that I have in my kefir behind me are thousands and thousands and thousands of years old. I don't know if that's the same thing with scobies and kombucha. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that because they will like grow, but kefir grains not so much.
Oh, they grow.
Oh, okay.
They grow, but you can't. Like, I don't know how the first SCOBY was produced. I don't know if you can create a SCOBY without a SCOBY to start.
Oh, true.
Yeah, I don't know. So I don't know if somebody was, if there's another mythological story behind scobies. And scobies are basically the same thing that kefir are, except it's just different microbes. But SCOBY stands for something. And I'm sorry, I don't remember what it is, but it's like biological material. Good. And so grains are the same. They're just a cluster of organisms, microbes that are bacteria and yeast that are smushy. So they have the consistency of a wet gummy bear. And they look a little bit like cauliflower pebbles. Like if you took cauliflower and kind of made it into rice, it would be that cauliflower. And you can eat them, but it's like a probiotic. It's like a supplement. There's a lot of probiotics in them. I would say that is the last thing that you do when you're first starting. And so I got my grains from a raw milk farmer on Etsy, and I've had them for years now. And now I just give them out to my friends all the time. So they make babies when they're happy. They just get really big. I have a friend that keeps giving me her extras. And then every time I give a presentation on fermentation or anything homesteading, I bring them with me.
Free. Yeah.
I'm going to do that this Saturday, actually. I'm going to share them with others and tell them how to make it. And off they go into the kefir world. They cost about $15 to get them online or in Southern California, because there's lots of hippies here. You can get them at Fermentation Farm. So there's actually a store where you can buy them. Or if you live in Southern California, you can come to a Weston A. Price chapter meeting and they will give them to you there if you ask them ahead of time.
Wow.
Isn't that a cool story?
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, so the grains in that jar behind you are thousands of years old.
And they were probably stolen by Irina. They were probably stolen by Irina.
That's not a conflicting feeling.
No, not at all.
It's totally good because it's healthy, and we all deserve good health.
It's organic. How can it be wrong?
That's hysterical. Oh my gosh. And so when you first started talking, Elizabeth, I remember you were talking about how you ended up with doing kefir. the person that you were learning from was learning about it and teaching because she had an autistic child with another illness. And so this is really interesting. So it's just making me think. When I had a boss who had an autistic son, and she eventually she was the one that told me about the water kefir. And so I wonder if she knew about that, and I'm just like late learning why.
Yeah, I don't know. And I will say that autism is a really touchy subject because some people do it, connect it as their identity. And what Dr. Natasha says is after 7 years old, once you get rid of the symptoms, you're still going to have autistic behaviors because you've missed the developmental years where you're learning to read faces and understand emotions. So I'm sorry if I'm offending anyone. I'm not meaning to, but I have met several people that have healed their children of autistic tendencies or diagnoses, and that's not super popular. And I remember when I first met my first one, it was like a unicorn. I'm like, how did you do? No, you can't possibly do that. And so for me, autism and cancer are two things that I don't think we know a lot about. And you even noticed I put a little podcast, an Instagram post about Chris Beat Cancer. That's Chris Beat Cancer. He's got a podcast, and he also healed his cancer nutritionally. He got it surgically removed, and then he healed it nutritionally. And so as I went into this gut health thing, then I also started learning about the Gerson therapy, which is a holistic treatment for cancer. And a lot of times, depending on the type of cancer, he actually has a higher rate of success than the conventional ways like chemo and radiation. And so I don't say this to say all people that choose to do chemo and radiation are wrong. I just want more people to know that there are options. And if your child is diagnosed and they're in tremendous pain, because autism is it's really hard.
Sensory, yeah.
It's really hard for a child to live with autism, and there's a lot of side effects that occur. There are things that you could possibly do. They're very difficult. You have to change your whole life. And so what happened with Dr. Natasha, she was treating autistic children because she had healed her child. And the families, because the protocol was so difficult, you're not eating processed food for 2 years. And that is hard to do. And you're eating a lot of cooked things. And if you're allergic to the kitchen like I was, that is a complete 180. And so the families would all go on the diet too, just to help support their child. And they started noticing that their rheumatoid arthritis would go away, their chronic fatigue would go away, their menopausal symptoms would go away, their chronic pain, like all of these things. I don't know that I've heard of someone healing cancer with GAPS protocol. I don't know, but a lot of the chronic stuff, thyroid meds, anxiety, depression, all sorts of amazing problems that seem like they're insurmountable have been healed with the GAPS protocol. And my question to someone that's suffering is, why not? Why not try it? What's it going to do? I mean, you might lose some weight or get to a healthy weight if you're underweight. Like that's the side effect. And all you have to do is a little bit more time in the kitchen. If you're that sick and it's at all possible, why not heal your gut? And kefir is something that you can do. When I was not bedridden, but when I was homebound, I could have done kefir if I had known about it. And I most certainly would have healed faster.
Yeah. I mean, I remember, so one thing that I remember from those days with my boss and her son was, so like you, she got very curious, like, what can I do? So she was telling me that it's environmental, like we've kind of done it to ourselves, like, you know, with all the environmental changes, the processed foods and the, you know, all the chemicals that we put in our bodies and have around us, the air fresheners and all those things, like they have all contributed to this onset of a lot of autism symptoms. Yeah. And that stuck with me. You know, I feel like it's not necessary that it's such a hard thing because I know, you know, autism it's not necessarily a disability. You're not broken, you are fine. And in some cases, they're better people than a lot of us because the sensitivities. But I mean, there are also people that are, you know, nonverbal, and that's a struggle for a lot of people. But it's a really interesting thing just to think about that. you're blowing my mind, man. I just, it's so much and it's so simple at the same time. Like, and this is just like, I keep having this conversation about conveniences. Like, we've had all these conveniences for so long, and everything is supposed to make our lives so much better. And, you know, with all the technology that's going to give us more time, like, how busy are we?
Yeah.
And, you know, with all the conveniences in packaging and stuff like that, but, you know, and then we're paying for that now.
We are paying for it.
And it's so interesting. The more conversations I have with people that are like, back up, slow down, and it doesn't have to be like that. And it's just it's so frustrating and empowering and all the things, like so many emotions with that.
Yeah. And it's heartbreaking when people are sick. It is heartbreaking. I love that you could make a t-shirt that just says back up. Want to get healthy? Back the F up. Right. Just back up a little bit. Right.
You can put it in your store.
Let's do it in my store. But yeah, there's, you know, I think it's important that we, again, just remember that the body knows how to heal, and it has been able to heal. A lot of times it is environmental stuff and the chemicals that we're putting in our bodies, but it's also that the generation that's having autistic children also are, immune compromised, and they've got, like Dr. Natasha says, a lot of autism has to do with gut health that starts in the vaginal canal, and it's the microbiome of the husband or the father when having intercourse that's connecting with the microbiome of the mother. Yeah, and as you're coming out of the birth canal, you're getting both microbiomes if they're still together, and so you're seeing that you're already compromised and you're having compromised kids. And we're just seeing a generational deficiency. And so there's no judgment here. This is not at all like someone's a bad parent because they have not at all. It's you had illness that you didn't even know, and that illness made you more susceptible. So for me, I spent 27 years not eating meat, and not in a healthy way. Like I was a French fry, ice cream. Like I did it when I was 16. Like I was eating junk food, like orange juice and Doritos for breakfast. It's unbelievable. And then I grew up in a latchkey home, and both my parents were working. And so I was eating Pop-Tarts for breakfast. Like I was creating this incredibly sick microbiome. And so is it my fault that I got really sick? I would say I have responsibility. I'm not going to call it fault, but if you can say, I helped create this, then you can help cure it. That's the bottom line. There's power in going, yeah, I didn't know. I thought Pop-Tarts were great. I put
that in my mouth.
But I put it in my mouth, and I was 16, and like, you know, the commercial said it was okay. And then I was 40, and I was a holistic practitioner that didn't want to cook because I didn't think you had to, as long as you had a salad bar at the healthy grocery store. Like I'm not saying it from a place of shame. I'm saying it from a place of empowerment. Like, yeah, I didn't know any better. And when Maya Angelou said, when I know better, I do better. That's how you can be with health as well.
Right. Oh my goodness. And just thinking about, I mean, the conversation about kefir, I'm just like, why? We just need to do it. Like, why, like you were saying, like, why not? Like,
why not?
What would it hurt to try? You know, it's zero work. You just have to get those grains and pour some milk.
Yeah. And
so you said start really small. You said if you have an intolerance, like a quarter of a teaspoon, but like for a normal person, how much are you having a day? Are you doing like a glass?
Yeah, I could easily have 3 cups a day. I don't always, but I have fermented food with every meal. So in the morning, I will have like a soup, a beef stew or something, and I'll have a side of sauerkraut. Or when we go out for coffee, I'll take, and I did a bunch of recipes for kefir, like easy, again, 3 steps, easy recipes. So I will take honey and kefir cream, mix it together, and it's really sweet, delicious. And then I'll use that as when I'm drinking coffee, I'll have a little taste of that, and then I'll have my coffee unsweetened, and it's delicious, and it feels like a treat. I make kefir ice cream. It's the only ice cream I make, honey sweetened kefir ice cream, which is so delicious. Like I said, I made the kefir cake. Sometimes I'll have it with berries. A lot of times I'll make a protein shake where I'll take a blender, a small blender. I'll put an apple, some strawberries, kefir, 2 or 3 raw egg yolks and then 1 egg because I want all that cholesterol. Mix that up, and I'll probably have that for lunch today. It's very easy to make, and it's delicious. Now, with that being said, our American palates are very childlike. Like, we like salt and sweet. That's what we've been taught, and that's what we're now addicted to. And for real, I was addicted to that for the longest time. Like, yeah. And so trying new stuff is difficult. Kefir is sour taste, and it's a little bit hard to get used to it. So you just, if you have to, you sweeten it with honey for a while. And you start with this one corner, which is I'm going to start making kefir, and I'm going to start kind of covering up those holes. Then you go to the next thing. What's the next thing? Well, it could be reducing your refined sugar. And you can do that in a way by, if you're not a baker like me, you could just start using honey. And then maybe the next thing is I'm going to start making meat stock. And the next thing is I'm going to have more vegetables. I'm just going to buy vegetables and roast them every day. Just broccoli in the oven with some olive oil every day. That's what I'm going to do. And so you just go one step at a time, because that's how I learned. I started with, all right, I think I'm going to try and cook us a meal. How do you bake a chicken? Like, I didn't know how to bake a chicken. I had to look up online how to bake a chicken. And now I have fast food chicken.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's, should I say the best, but to do it one thing at a time and do it for a little bit until it feels comfortable and easy. And like, it's not an effort. And then you can be like, what else can I do?
Yeah.
And especially if you're feeling better, it's going to be easier because you're like, that was really effective. What else can I do and feel better? Like, it's exciting to think about. I cannot wait. I got to get me some grains.
Yay. Well, let me ask you a quick question. Okay. You're a baker. You make jams. You make all this cool stuff. So people looking at you will be like, I could never do what she does. But were you born coming out of the womb knowing how to bake?
I feel like I was. No, my mom. In fact, I was afraid because I think that I might have burned myself once, or maybe my mom burned herself once, and I was like, ooh, scary. As we all do, like hot, but I think I did not for a long time.
Mm-hmm. And so it started with one corner, right? Like, I'm going to make cookies. Mm-hmm. And then you make cookies, or I'm going to make jam. And now look at you now. You're, I think you told me before you're making sourdough bread. Like, that sounds so scary. Did you make sourdough bread? I think did you turn butter? What did you do?
Sourdough. Oh, I've done butter. Yes. Last year we talked about me making butter. Yes. But I have been doing focaccia. Ooh. Which is I'm not using sourdough because I dried my sourdough for when I move. Mm-hmm. I'm ready early. But I wasn't really with the sourdough. I cannot seem to make, and I know you said, just keep doing it. But I was wasting so much flour because I would make these brick loaves that I couldn't eat, and my chickens wouldn't eat it. Now there are deer in the backyard, so I could give it to the deer, but it was pretty inedible. But focaccia, ooh, dangerous.
See, I don't make sourdough. I don't bake, so I don't make. We have a farmer at the farmer's market. We have a baker, and he makes 48-hour sourdough, and that's what I don't eat grains, but my husband does, so that's what we do. But it's quite an insult when even your chickens won't eat your.
Tell me,
that's so offensive.
I mean, yeah, and so bread, they're okay, but they get bored really easily. But like oats and rice, they love rice. Wow. And I feel like this is another thing that I joke about. I think that I made them that way. Because you've probably seen like the reels where people will just poke a couple holes or like scrape a jack-o'-lantern up, and then the chickens will finish it off and make this beautiful jack-o'-lantern by pecking it because they can smell the pumpkin. Mine will not touch. Nope. I will cut it up. I will cook it for them, and they're like, it's still pumpkin. No, thank you. But they love the carbs, and so I thought that they would like that. But it's just so dense that they just wouldn't.
They're like, it's too much work. We need it easy.
Yep.
You have very posh chickens.
I think I did that. I mean, everyone doesn't treat their chickens all the time either.
No. Well, I think I did that with my gut for the longest time, feeding it Pop-Tarts, and so So we're on the same level, except
Same
mine were the microbes were like, I want more carbs. What's
Yeah.
happening?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do we find this Kefir course that you keep talking about?
This fantastic kefir course.
Yes, that's going to cure us and set us on well, maybe not cure us, but like set us on a really good path.
Yeah, it'll
Keep
get
feeling
you
better.
started on a gut reset, which is one of the miracles of the body being able to heal. So you can go to my website, and I have a special gift for your audience members only. No, I'm very excited. If they use promo code GROUNDED, GROUNDED, they will get 25% off the Kefir course. Only here, ladies and gentlemen. No one else is going to know about the Grounded promo code. And so you can get to the Kefir course by going to www.createwellnessproject.com/Kefir. Kefir. Kefir.
Cool. All right. And so we did this last year, Elizabeth, but I'm curious to know if your thoughts on sustainability have changed.
I knew this question was coming. I didn't prep for it, but I was like, yeah, that's a good question. Let's talk about sustainability in terms of kefir.
Okay.
So kefir, when you make it at home, has higher potency, which you cannot get anywhere else. What kind of like when we talk about closed loop, I love closed loop, and that means, for those of you that don't know, like in gardening, you use your kitchen scraps to make compost to feed the plants that you will then eat, and then you will use those scraps to make compost. It's a closed loop, and I think kefir is similar in that you're using the grains to make something that is going to heal your body, and then you will have more energy to make more things that are going to heal your body, and then you're going to continue. And then you're going to eventually give some of those grains away to other people to help them heal their body. And so this kind of grassroots healing occurs. So I have people calling me and texting me, thanks so much for the grains. They're amazing. And this is what they've done. And I didn't do it, but I took my closed loop and I opened it up just a little bit to share it with others. And that to me is sustainability, empowering our community. Because I think community is so important. We're not supposed to be in bubbles, although that's what we've been taught, right? Be on our phone, be on our laptops. Instead, get out in your neighborhood and walk around with grains and offer them to people. You will make friends.
Some kefir grains?
I am.
I like you. Here's a gift. Gift of wellness.
You think it's a joke, but I did recently. I volunteer, and somebody mentioned.
I love that.
Yeah, I gave her sauerkraut, and she was so excited, over the moon. And she happened to have homemade tallow body lotion that she was like, I've got something for you. And we were just both like kindred spirits, sustainability spirits connecting. And now I will be giving her kefir grains next.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah.
It is like the gift of wellness. And so when you have your extra kefir grains, just, pick someone that you really like.
It costs you nothing. And then if you want extra credit, invite them over and teach them. So I go to people's houses, my friends, and I will teach them how to do it. And it's fun. It's, they give me little gifts to thank me, like a mason jar, a fancy mason jar, or, towels. And I'm like, oh, thanks. I didn't need that, but okay. I just wanted to geek out with you. But I've done that several times. And what better way to hang out with friends, right, than to create something, than to, as you had said in one of your podcasts, like we're sitting all the time, right? Even sitting and talking on the phone. What if we're standing and creating something together? And then you get to tell me how, like some people send it to me because the kefir looks a little bit like an Arabian god, an Arabian knight. Like he's got the little towel and he looks, I could put like a mustache on him and he would totally be.
Jar. The
jar looks like Lawrence of Arabia. What? Yeah, what? And so my friends will send me pictures of their Arabian knights and they'll be like, look at this, look, he's doing great. And so we joke all the time. And now they have a memory, an experience that they can take with them.
That's so fun. Now I'm thinking of how to do that. Like you can get one of those like a curtain tie back thing with the tassels and like
Yes. That would be so cool.
Okay, I'm going to share my pictures with you.
Please. Pretty please.
Awesome. And so and we know how to find the class, but where are you located that people can create wellnessproject.com?
Yeah, that's the best place to find me. You can go on Instagram, but Usually I don't post a lot, and if you message me there, I probably won't message you back. I'm really, really bad about it. So my website is the best way to find me.
Okay, super. Elizabeth Bruckner, thank you so much. I don't think I need to say, but I love hanging out with you.
Oh, same.
And your curiosity just makes me kind of giddy.
Oh, thank you.
And it makes me want to try new things. And so I'm very much looking forward to taking the course, to getting some grains, and feeling better.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.